Oli.
I'll just call out you all.
Yeah, just say, just point to us.
Hello. Hi guys. Hi everyone. Can I get you all seated? If you guys want to stand, it's okay. Just stand behind, but I think we're going to start soon. So the front row is still empty if anyone wants to sit here. There's 3 more seats here. Are you starting the live stream? Yeah, okay. Hi everyone. So thank you all for coming today. So I think I'll introduce myself first. So I'm Mervin from Stake with Us, together with my partners Michael. Michael's over there. CTO Oliver is over there. So we run a secure, reliable infrastructure for the next generation of proof-of-stake networks. So before we begin, I think I would like to thank our investors, SGInnovate, which is the Singapore government's deep tech fund, for supporting us together with Tusha. Thank you for coming and thank you for supporting us throughout our journey, Lunex and Golden Gate Ventures. So thanks for supporting us with this venue too, to host a great crowd. So we also like to thank some of our partners that have come to support us. So CoinGecko, Coinhako, the other validators within the ecosystem, the guys from Forbole, thank you for coming from Hong Kong, and HashQuark, RockX, stake.fish, JK, and Sinshu. Thanks for coming down, and also having the Kava and Tendermint team to present today. And also, Kwon, I think I saw you somewhere just now. Yeah, okay. Thanks and congrats for the great traction you're getting with Terra. Yeah. So I think right now I'm just, this is going to be the official inaugural Cosmos Meetup. This is only going to be the first of many to come. We're going to be hosting a lot more panels, technical workshops, and pitches about application-specific blockchains. So I'm really excited about the whole Cosmos Meetup movement that's happening all over the world, working together to try to grow the Cosmos community. So without further ado, I'll just run through the brief schedule, what we planned for today. So we'll start at 7 to 7:30. We'll have Kwon speak about the state of the Cosmos ecosystem. And then we'll have dinner catered behind from 7:30 to 8. And then Brian from Kava Labs will be presenting. And after that, we'll have networking session. So without further ado, I'll introduce Kwon.
Thank you. Hello. Wow. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Stake with Us and Cosmos Singapore. Really great to be here. 1 second. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to talk about the state of Cosmos, recent updates. If you were at the conference earlier, not a conference, but at the event, it's basically the same slides, so I'm going to go over it again. But if you have questions, we'll do a Q&A at the end. So please save those, or if it's burning, raise your hand and we'll get to it. Okay. All right. So I think we all know this, or most of us probably know this material, but in case you don't, here's a brief history of how things came to be. It started with Tendermint, and I like this slide because it's a rocket, and the reason why that's cool is because Tendermint started in 2014 with a desire to create a better consensus algorithm. And there were other proof-of-stake systems at the time. This was back in 2013. There was BitShares, NXT, PureCoin, but none of them seem to really have a proof as to why it is secure to the same degree of proof that Bitcoin was secure. And so what happened was we scoured the literature and we found that Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus algorithms had already been researched ever since the 60s and 70s. There was this one paper in particular in 1988 called Consensus in the Presence of Partial Synchrony by Dwork, Lynch, and Stockmayer that had all the components that convinced me, anyways, at the time, that, that we can really solve this problem. It started because at the time, Bitcoin proof of work seemed, I mean, it was definitely working, but there was a memo online by this lady. I don't know who it was. I still don't know who it is. And if anyone remembers what this is, please let me know. That estimated, basically on a napkin, like napkin calculation, that should Bitcoin get as popular as it wants to be, then in the next few years, the proof of work energy requirement would be so high that it would be almost ludicrous. And so I looked at that back in 2013 and made a judgment call, and I was like, okay, this is right. Proof of work is going to be very expensive. And so we found BFT algorithms and figured out that you can create consensus algorithms without proof of work. And not only is it energy efficient, it turns out it's also faster. And what I say is that it's arguably more secure because there's more collateral at stake in the case of double spending. And it turns out it's also really nice for scaling because you can have many blockchains secured by the same validator set or by different validator sets, all communicating with each other, and have robust security across many chains in a way that is difficult to do with proof of work. Anyways, it's a long story of how Tendermint came to be, but here we go, 2014. So we developed Tendermint Core. It's been in development since 2014. It's a very advanced consensus engine that is sort of the inspiration for a lot of new things that are coming out as well. So Tendermint Core is available and free. It's on GitHub. A lot of projects are using it. In fact, you'll see later how many there are. There's over 100 projects building on Tendermint. But there's also new consensus algorithms like Hot Stuff that's also inspired by Tendermint and others. So that's the legacy of Tendermint Core. It's still relevant today, as you'll see in a bit. But and then what we did was we took the properties of Tendermint and proposed in 2016 a way to solve like the scaling problem of cryptocurrencies. So if you remember all the scaling Bitcoin debates and stuff that was happening at the time, there wasn't really a very good solution, at least from our perspective. Excuse me. I have a cold. But the way to solve the scaling problem, really, the really easy way is to just have many blockchains, many independent parallel blockchains, and to coordinate them by having these blockchains communicate with each other. And so the Cosmos white paper was published in 2016, describing basically a sidechain system where the Cosmos hub sits at the center. Well, it doesn't have to be the center, but it's just one way of doing it. And then having many blockchains connected to the Cosmos hub via what we call IBC, which is an interblockchain communication protocol, in order to two-way peg tokens such that you can use the same token in any of these many blockchains. Okay? So it's a scaling solution. So that's Cosmos. Excuse me. It's an amazing graphic, by the way, kind of shows like a multi-hub world. And maybe this is the Cosmos hub, but it doesn't have to be the center of the universe, right? So it's like a relativistic system that we're building. Love the graphics. And so, here's more progress. And again, many of you are probably already familiar with this, but in 2018, we launched a Game of Stakes, which was an incentivized testnet program. And it was the first of its kind where we had over 200 validators actually running BFT consensus. And these 200 validators were, basically strangers from the internet who wanted to participate in this experiment, right? And it worked. We had the Game of Stakes testnet running. We learned many things, and then we launched the Cosmos Hub in 2019. So that's this year. It was, what, March? Yep. So it hasn't been a year yet, and there's a lot more progress, so we'll talk about that. So the Cosmos Hub, like I mentioned earlier, it's the purpose of the Cosmos Hub is to connect to many other chains, and the purpose is to keep track of how many tokens there are in each of these blockchains that are connected to the Cosmos Hub. So if you remember the Bitcoin sidechains paper, it's a similar concept, except instead of Bitcoin at the center, there's a proof-of-stake blockchain at the center, a multi-asset one. And instead of the Bitcoin proof-of-work chain, all the blockchains are essentially proof-of-stake or Tendermint-based. Okay, so let's talk about some more proof of adoption, some metrics that we've accomplished altogether. So one is, and I don't like this slide because the scale is bad, but you see that there's more proof-of-stake chains, right? So this is showing how the market cap by altcoins, how there are more and more proof-of-stake chains, but it's not just that there's more proof-of-stake chains just this year. A lot of the new ones are actually building on Tendermint. So our ecosystem of potential blockchains that can connect to the Cosmos Hub is growing. And Tendermint BFT appears to be very well adopted. So it's almost like there's some sort of consensus happening that Tendermint chains are the way to go if you want to quickly build a blockchain. And that's nice because that's exactly what we were going for. We wanted to create a network effect of blockchain projects that are built on Tendermint so that all of them can connect to the Cosmos Hub so that we can create a network effect together. Right? And so here's another accomplishment, and I think a lot of us are familiar with this graphic. We have all of these validators in our ecosystem. So these are the Cosmos Hub validators. There's all kinds of businesses. There's not only just pure proof-of-stake validator businesses, but also wallet providers, exchanges, funds, even mining pools. Thank you, stake.fish, and SDK developers and so on, who are part of this community of 100 validators today, soon to be 125. And the Cosmos Hub basically is turning into this shelling point for the proof-of-stake ecosystem that's rapidly growing. And what we're seeing is that when new blockchains launch and they want to have their own validator set, they approach the Cosmos Hub validators. And so a lot of the validators here are also participating in validating on other blockchains. So that's a new evolution, but I'm sure this will take a different shape in the future as we get things like shared security going. What is this? 100 plus projects building on the Cosmos and Tendermint. So yeah, we have a lot of projects building on our ecosystem or publicly committing to building towards the Cosmos network. So that's good. And we have fantastic development activities. So this is showing that we're still number 4 as of July in terms of the top blockchain projects in terms of development activity, right? So the Cosmos SDK is very active in development. And I don't think that includes like Tendermint development activity, so maybe it's actually number 1, I don't know, arguably. Here's where we're at in terms of the state of software. So the current version of the Cosmos Hub, we enable transfers, we fix bugs, and then here's the new state of software that we have today, where we have the separation between the SDK and Gaia. That was a big effort. We've got automated parameter changes through governance proposals. So by passing a proposal in the Cosmos Hub, you can change parameters. There's many other features and refactors and cleanups that happened. What's coming is over here. So after we upgrade the Cosmos Hub, which is happening very soon, we will be working toward developing the IBC module. And IBC stands for Interblockchain Communication. It's the TCP/IP that allows Cosmos to work and communicate with all of these chains. We're going to have on-chain upgrades. We're going to have subkeys, which are a way to permission access to your account. I think maybe the things to highlight here are there's a WASM module being developed for the SDK, as well as a Uniswap one, an EVM module as well. So not only are we going to add smart contract capability to the SDK very soon, but we already have like a DeFi module being worked on and so on. So the Cosmos SDK is looking very good. What's this? Significant foundation milestones. Sorry, I can't read this. Yeah, so the Interchain Foundation, this is the logo for the Interchain Foundation, has been funding a lot of projects. And recently, one thing that we did was we decided that we want to decentralize the activities of the ICF such that multiple entities can create grants and service agreements on behalf of the ICF. So there's going to be more activity, actually, because we're scaling this system. We're also working on different SDKs. So while Tendermint can work with any language because it's it just allows you to plug in any application written in any language to become a blockchain, the Cosmos SDK that we wrote for the hub is written in Go. And so if you want to create a blockchain today, the best way is to write it in Go. But with the Tendermint's ABCI interface, you can actually create an SDK written in any language. So here's one, a collaboration between Foam and Kadena in Haskell that's being funded right now. There's also Lotion, many other SDKs in development as well. And towards the future, what the ICF wants to focus on is things like Tendermint and IBC implementation in Rust. So we'll have not just Tendermint in Go, but Tendermint implemented in Rust as well. And this is sort of like the longer-term roadmap, but we want formal verification of Tendermint and other protocols to make sure that everything is correct. So that's kind of like the roadmap for the ICF. All right, so what else is coming? Obviously, the IBC protocol. Yeah, so what is it? The IBC protocol, like I mentioned earlier, is the TCP/IP communication-like system for blockchains to communicate. So you can send packets of information from one blockchain to another. And on top of this primitive, you can build things like token two-way pegging. So in other words, the IBC protocol is a generic, abstract packet communication protocol, and on top of that, we want to build token pegging for the Cosmos Hub. But we're doing it this way so that you can use IBC to develop not only token pegging, like the Cosmos Hub is doing, but you can also use it to create like cross-chain smart contract call systems. So you can create things like Ethereum 2.0-like systems or Polkadot-like systems using IBC. And we're hearing a lot of interest actually from those teams, especially one of the Ethereum 2.0 teams in using IBC for creating Ethereum 2.0. So we'll see how that works out. But there's a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of companies collaborating on IBC today. So today it's mostly all in bits, the Interchain Foundation, Agoric. Agoric is a company that's building secure ECMAScript. And Binance that are collaborating for IBC. We're getting some more members to review the spec today. So the spec is finalized, but we're doing a public review of the spec. So that's happening now. I won't go into this because every time I try, it just kind of, it's painful, but what's going on is there's blockchain A, blockchain B. Well, yeah, graphically, that's the blockchain A. You see there are many nodes, right? There are 5 nodes on this blockchain. And if you zoom into one of the nodes, you'll see that it's composed of these modules, right? And one of the modules is an IBC module. And it's vice versa for blockchain B. And then there is a transaction, there's a way to prove to blockchain B that something happened on blockchain A. And you can do that by submitting transactions onto blockchain B that prove that some block hash was committed on blockchain A and that some packet was intended for blockchain B from blockchain A. And the relayer is the one that's responsible for paying the fees and submitting that data onto blockchain B. But anyways, that's how you can communicate packets between blockchains. That's what IBC is about. Where are we with this? So, like I mentioned, the spec is ready. It's in public review, so please take a look. And we're about to do some implementation. I mean, it's already been happening, but we're going to finish implementation soon. And I'll mention this later, but there's going to be a DeFi hackathon in November where we want this, at least the initial version of this Go IBC to be ready for the hackathon. Once that's ready, we're going to launch this game of zones. It's going to be like the game of stakes, except it'll be between many zones using IBC. We don't exactly know what the rules are yet, but one thing we learned is we want to publish the rules and make it clear and get some review on it before we start the game. So that's going to happen. And then once that works out well, we will launch the Cosmos Hub with the IBC. And once we do that, all the blockchains that are building on our stack are going to be able to connect with each other. Okay, here's another thing we're doing. We want to bridge to Ethereum, right? So we're talking about mainnet Ethereum. And while IBC works between like BFT chains, in other words, like blockchains that are powered by Tendermint, such as the Cosmos Hub, or with the Iris Hub, or the Binance DEX, and so on. It doesn't work well, or we don't want to design it to work well with proof-of-work chains because they're very different. So the Peggy module is an IBC-like module that's designed to work with mainnet Ethereum. And once we have that, then you can even peg ERC20 tokens and bring them into the Cosmos ecosystem. Where are we with that? Switch Labs is implementing it. It says Ethermint there, but that's wrong. We have a unidirectional version. There's actually another team that developed a similar thing, so there's actually 2 versions. But anyways, the next step is to run the testnet with this unidirectional Peggy, so we can, in other words, you can move your ERC20 tokens onto a smart contract, and then they will materialize on Cosmos, right? And then the next step is to implement the other way, so you can actually withdraw your tokens, so you can move your Cosmos tokens back to Peggy, and then get your ERC20 tokens back on the Ethereum mainnet. So that's going to happen, and once that's done, we're going to hopefully connect directly to Ethereum. What else? So that's connecting to Ethereum mainnet and pegging ERC20 tokens. But the other thing you can do in terms of bringing Ethereum onto the Cosmos ecosystem is actually run EVM smart contracts. And you can do that by implementing, that's what Ethermint is about. It's also going to be developed on the SDK. It is being developed on the SDK. The point is to run Ethereum smart contracts on the SDK and to be as compatible as possible with Ethereum. So where are we? We can parse and validate existing Ethereum transactions. And here's some more details. So we have a proof of concept. ChainSafe is implementing it. Once we're done with the proof of concept, we're going to clean it up into 2.0. And then we'll be ready to run an Ethermint zone connected to the Cosmos Hub. So by combining Peggy with Ethermint, you can essentially run smart contracts, Ethereum smart contracts on ERC20 tokens. It's almost like what Ethereum 2.0 might be like, except, you know, it's different because it works only with tokens. It's not designed to work with smart contract calls. And it doesn't work with WASM or anything like that. It just works with the EVM. But at least it helps you scale Solidity, so that's cool. All right, what else is going on? There's a DeFi hackathon that we're running in San Francisco. This is going to happen in November, 1st to 3rd. This is where we want we want to see a lot of entries for IBC applications that are DeFi applications. If you want to learn more, please go to hackathon.sfblockchainweek.io. There's also a QR code over there. But yeah, it's going to be a massive event. And this is this event. Welcome to Recursion. And here's some more info. If you don't know already, just follow us on Twitter. Please go to the website. Am I missing anything? What is this? Okay, that's the next slide. Okay, so that's where we are. Really happy to announce all this progress we're making. There's a lot more going on, and of course, the ecosystem is very large, so there's a lot more going on, the general ecosystem too. But here's just a follow-up on the basic stuff that we promised, and very excited to see what we all do together. I think one of the main things that we learned by in these meetups is that the community is it's quite amazing. And we saw this in Korea, we saw this in just about everywhere we go. So I'm very excited to meet everyone here, and hopefully we have more of these meetups in Singapore. Thank you very much.
Perfectly timed. 7:30. All right. So I guess we can start with the food now. Yeah, Michael's going to start opening the food. You guys can just get the food. We'll be back with Brian and Kava at 8. So just half an hour. Hey guys, everyone, we'll start the second session shortly. Can we get seated?
That's fine.
Hello, can we get seated? We're gonna start soon.
No pressure, Brian. All right. I've turned it down. It's not that hot right now. So. Okay. You turn it down? Yeah. Do you want me to grab you?
Hello, hello. Everyone find their seats. I'll give you guys about 30 seconds and I'll get started.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Count down.
You can count down. Can I have you guys sit down?
More seat is in front. Those who want to stand, just make sure you're just quiet at the back.
You want to?
Yeah. Aha. Okay. Easiest clicker I've ever held, just forward and backward. All right, hello everyone. My name is Brian Kerr. I'm the CEO at Kava Labs. I thought a lot of, we haven't had a lot of marketing or a lot of documentation that's been out for people to learn about us. So today what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about our history, how we got to what we're doing today, and give a very high-level overview of what Kava is doing now. And following that, then we can go into AMA. We can dive in doing any deep questions that we want to do in the tech that we're building. But I thought it'd be good to start there. And I also have now solved the reason why Jay found it so hot here. It's not these lights, it's this one. It's the whole screen. So I'm going to stand about here. Everyone can still see me, so that's good. So at Kava, we've actually been around for 2 years, even though we just announced our project in June a few months ago. What we did prior to that was we were focused on cross-chain interoperability. So we've always shared a vision of specialized blockchains that need to work together. Some might be good at privacy, some might scale well. Each one is going to have its different attributes that makes it valuable and different incentives needed for the participants of each blockchain. So that's always just intuitively made sense to us. And that's why Cosmos, we really like the philosophy that the community was espousing. And in addition, we followed sort of all the PBFT work, and because we were doing cross-chain settlement for well over almost 2 years, focusing on like BTC, ETH, XRP, we had to dive deep into the consensus mechanisms, and we really found a very high value in anything that was fast finality. So when you have a proof of work blockchain that requires probabilistic finality, many blocks to be confirmed, it's actually very prohibitive to do something like Lightning, which requires payment channels, which need finality to settle. And as things scale, as you add more assets in the mix, finality is actually one of the key things that was important there. So in that way, Tendermint was also very appealing to us from the start. So just as a history, that's why we decided to build on Tendermint. It was just super easy. And then from a developer standpoint, our lead developer, Ruri, was actually able to spin up a testnet when we first tried it, I think in about a day and an hour. So it was very, very easy to spin up a testnet and start building on it. So what did we do for the first 2 years? We were focused on cross-chain settlement. That was what we focused on. We basically built a wallet that integrated Lightning, integrated payment channels we built for Ethereum. We added ERC20 support for things like DAI, and also had support for XRP. And this, what you could do with that was you could use Interledger, or this cross-chain payment network to send assets from one network, from XRP to BTC, very seamlessly, all without giving out custody of your assets. The unfortunate truth, though, after doing a lot of work and us actually spending a lot of money paying our guys to do the development, we realized that payments for crypto is just still very, very small. And if you're building any business like that, the volume that's required, you're usually taking a spread on any flows that are going through that. So the volume is just not, we believe that crypto is very good for payments, but to build a sustainable business around payments, at least in the next 1 to 2 years, isn't going to be feasible in terms of like a cross-chain way. So we said, okay, well, we know what cross-chain settlement's like. We know that that's our core expertise. Where can we apply that next? And I'm actually going to go into one slide, because our core philosophy in terms of, well, not the easiest clicker anymore. Okay, I won't do that. You can help? Thank you. So one of our philosophies was we focused on payment channels as well because it established credit on top of the hard assets that crypto already had. And if you're a finance person at all, you know that that's actually what most of the economic engine of the world runs on. Credit's way more efficient. We have so much cash, and 90+% of what actually happens in the world is actually built on credit on top of that. Thank you. But when payments didn't seem to be a thing, we said, okay, well, how do we actually build more credit? So instead of for payment flows, we could do that for the assets themselves. And that's why we directed our attention to the DeFi landscape and lending against hard assets. And it's a virtuous cycle of, here we go. To understand credit, I'm not going to go through the whole presentation. This is actually like an hour-long presentation, so I'll just like click through it here and there. But one of our things is, how do you build the market cap of crypto? Well, you can have fiat flow into it, or you can actually lend to users who have hard assets already there. And if you're lending in a stablecoin like DAI, or what our blockchain creates, you're actually just adding to the overall crypto market cap. So we believe that that type of primitive or basic infrastructure for crypto is very important for the future of growth. It's not reliant on the fiat rails that are built by the world. So, here we go. That's our goal, increase the market cap of crypto. We actually had one of our early investors, Ripple, ask us, hey, we have all these like MSBs, and they're sending money across with XRP using our platform called XRapid, but they don't want to have the currency risk of XRP. Could you guys actually build us a stable coin? And we went off and we did some research, and we said, well, actually, we can use something like Tendermint, where people take the XRP, send it to a private key or a public address controlled by all the validators of that zone, and then it can be used in a CDP system like what MakerDAO does for Ethereum. And when we saw that, we oh, cool, we can have an XRP-backed stablecoin. And we built a spec for it, and we built a spec for pegging XRP into a Cosmos zone. But then we realized, actually, we could do this for many assets. XRP is quite big compared to, it's 1/3 the size of Ethereum today. But what if we could do that for Bitcoin? That's 10 times the size of Ethereum. And that's what made us get very interested in pursuing this path. And it took us about 2 months to build. We built everything in Go. It's actually much easier than what we had to do for payment channels on Ethereum. It's a special challenge to build on Ethereum if you haven't. The testnet's supposed to be identical, as an example, to the mainnet, but we would build code and run on the testnet. It's fine. As soon as we move to mainnet, there'd be issues. That shouldn't happen with a testnet, but that's what building on Ethereum is like today. Tendermint, not the case. Super easy for us to build. So we actually, with the vision to bring in assets of something like XRP, bring in other assets like BTC, Binance, and other assets that what I call are dumb blockchains. They don't have smart contracting capability to even build a MakerDAO-like system on them. We actually can now put that together as a package and provide it to the users of those assets. And the important thing of a system like this is that not only can users now get loans, they can use that for leverage if they're trading, which, let's all be honest, that's the main use case of crypto today. Everyone's just here to gamble. No use cases have really proved a lot of usage outside of that. So this can actually get adoption very, very quickly from the majority of the market and the users of crypto immediately. And then in addition, the stablecoin provides stability for hedging. And then the additional thing that can be used here is that it actually can be the platform that supports all the derivatives that would be required. So how I think of financial markets, you need stability, you need a safe place to put that stability, and you need something where people can protect themselves against the future. And what we're trying to do at Kava is provide all of those things. All right, so how does it work? We've put together a blockchain since, so in June we announced the testnet. We had all these validators come. Cosmos is an incredible community. We had over 100 validators on our first testnet participating, running it, and it went up no problem. On our DevNet, we have this system, which is the CDP system, or collateralized debt position system. And effectively what a user does is they take their crypto, they deposit it into the CDPs, the smart contracting module that we've built for the blockchain. Whatever that asset is, let's say it's BTC, that's locked up. They can then choose to receive a stablecoin loan. So it's a self-serving loan platform for users without having to go through a KYC process or anything. And it just needs to be under the collateral worth of what they deposited. It needs to be over-collateralized in a system like this. And when they can take that stable coin, they can buy more Bitcoin with it to increase their leverage exposure to it. They can use it for payments. They can use it wherever they want. That's then on the market for anyone to pick up if they want to hedge with that stable coin. And then when the user wants to reclaim their collateral, they just simply pay back the stable coin plus a stability fee paid in our governance token called Kava. And when that happens, the CDP is closed, the Bitcoin's released back to them, and then the virtuous cycle is complete, everyone's happy. But what's cool is we're starting this off as a multi-collateral system. So from its design, we can do very cool things like savings rates on the stablecoin that we're producing. So something that's worth $1, if someone takes that stablecoin and bonds it, effectively locks it in a smart contract, they can earn 2 to 3% yield from that. And pretty much that's just taken from the stability fee. And in that way, we can create organic demand for our stablecoin, offering the stability fee. And it's a taxation on the stability fees, or effectively the earners of those stability fees. But you can create a nice balancing dynamic between the stability fee and the savings rate that you're offering on the stablecoin. Oh, I broke it again. Oh, I really broke it. That's fine. So I'll give you guys just a quick update on where we are. So we announced in June, we did 2 series of test nets, and now we're moving to mainnet at the end of this month. And we have over 100 validators participating in all of that, so we've reached our validator goals. Where this version will basically be like Gaia or the Cosmos Hub. It'll have all the functionality of staking and delegating that's required for this thing to run. But then once it's out there in the wild, the validator set will enable the CDP module. So we expect in 1 to 2 months, kind of towards the November timeframe of SF Blockchain Week, we'll have the CDP module live for people to start playing around with and developing on. So I'll leave it there. That's just a high level of Kava. Hopefully that was somewhat informative. Are there any questions so far? Yeah.
So you said that having a BTC, I can deposit a BTC to
CDP?
CDP, and you give me a stable coin for that, and I can buy more BTC, hence it is getting more exposure, right?
Yeah.
But now you take the risk of holding BTC. What do you do with the BTC to not be exposed to BTC risk? What if I give you the Bitcoin and after a week, half the price?
So that's a great question. So all the validators of our blockchain actually run standard Oracle software, and it basically takes a collection of price feeds that monitor BTC to USD price at all times. So it's taking that from Coinbase, from CoinGecko, from a number of sources, and taking the median price of that. And every block, that price is reported, and once the collateral, that the BTC value, as that drops, if it's dropping below the loan ratio, it automatically gets liquidated. So it's sold off to anyone who wants to buy it at a discount. And that happens all on the blockchain. It's sold off before it's worth less than your loan. But you still get to keep the loan. That loan is yours, it's just your collateral then gets forfeited in that case. It's just like a margin trade of stock. I might have Apple stock and I'll margin trade, so I can actually have 2 Apple stock for the value of 1. But when the value goes down based on my underlying assets, at some point it gets liquidated. And it's to cover any potential losses by the lenders. But in this system, the lender is the system itself. So it just does that automatically through auctioning process.
Different question.
Mm-hmm.
If I deposited 10 BTC, got amount of USDT for it, right? Or whatever the stable coin is. Can I, let's say I was losing money and I want to take whatever BTC I can take. Like I have half of whatever I can take back 5 BTC worth of stable coin, and that's what I have. Can I take back the half, or do I have to get the money to me?
So that's a great question. I think a lot of it will depend on how you do the CDP yourself. So you could do multiple CDPs if you're worried about that risk.
Oh, but CDP itself is like atomic. You either get it and unlock it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just so you know, like most users will have very over-collateralized CDPs. So it'll be like the average for Maker is something like 600%. So even though the ratio might be
So simply said, they put 6 times more than they get.
yeah. So even if it drops, they're pretty sure they're always going to have more. Yeah. And that way it's never risking liquidation. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question. So, like, how
Would you mind just introducing? We should probably introduce everyone.
I'm Enrico from Commercial Network, and my question is like, how's it going to happen? Do you think that, for example, our chain is also like a Cosmos chain, and there's like users, they're doing completely different things, like they're exchanging documents, but somehow, sometimes maybe they need some lending. So how do you foresee, for example, like our 2 different chain collaborating and having like some user from our chain getting actually Kava lending? How do you say it?
So IBC is a very critical feature. Otherwise, we'd have to build independent bridges to any blockchain that we want to build this support through. But once IBC is finished and that's integrated into the hub, you would just need to be able to go through the hub to IBC, to our blockchain. The assets could flow in, and as long as our validator set approves your asset, it could be used.
So we can basically share all your users, so it's going to be like a huge ecosystem, because every single chain will be able to leverage every other chain features and not try to replicate anything, but you can like bridges, create like a super ecosystem with differentiated purpose chain. That's what we can do, exactly.
So your users will be able to get loans on their assets whenever they want in that setup, yeah.
I think this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Otto from Romania. So a big problem for Maker is the premium, right? So they change whenever they want to change, right? It was, I think, 13 in the beginning, and it reached to 21 or over 21% per year. So how that is going to look like in your case? You'll have like validators voting on the premium, or how are you making sure that the premium for holding the CDP will be fair?
So I get this question a lot because everyone's like, oh, the premium's too high. The stability fee for Maker is way too high. But if I compare that to what I would pay to do margin trading on, JP Morgan.
I didn't say that it's too high. I said that they change it and you have no control over that. So not necessarily that it's too high.
So as a lender, you started with one rate and it floated.
Exactly.
Else. Yeah.
I don't believe like 20% is too high, but when you start with 13 and you change like every other week, it's a problem. So
I guess it's important to understand that the validators who are governing all the parameters of a CDP structure like this, they're effectively being like a central banker. They have an inflation rate or a money supply limit that they can control. They control a lot of variables here. The problem with the single collateral case was they only had stability fees to go up or down as the lever that they could pull. And it's because there was single collateral. It was just ETH. they couldn't actually use Maker to buy assets off the market if they wanted to. In the multi-collateral case, and even with multi-collateral DAI, a lot of that is solved. They don't just have one lever anymore. They actually can pull all these other levers that involves the Maker token. And similarly, we're starting off as a multi-collateral system, so we can do that as well. So there will be less pressure on the stability fee itself, so that won't have to move as much. But still, to your point, the governing group of this blockchain is going to need to assess the risk of any asset that's in the network. And if they say, actually, we need a higher stability fee for this asset because it's very risky, that's always possible. I think that having very frequent changes of that is kind of irresponsible as a group. But I do think that there will be times where you have to make that decision very quick. And that won't be like the nicest experience as a user.
Okay, thank you. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Hello there. My name is Anton. I'm from Kyber Network. So my question is, so basically you have this different assets that you can deposit as collateral, right, for creating the CDP, right? But for this non-smart contract type of assets like BTC or XRP, who has control of the private key for that deposit address?
So it really depends on the pegging mechanism. For example, if it's a peg, as Jay was describing, for ETH assets,
okay,
then it's that blockchain. It's that pegging mechanism, but they're just deposited into our smart contracts. However, if it's a peg that is directly supported on our blockchain, it's really going to depend on the signature scheme of whatever that asset supports. So for example, Ripple natively supports a multi-sig of 8 signatures. And you can nest that with another 8-signature multi-sig to get 64. And you can basically split up that 64 multi-sig across all the validators, effectively controlling the private key but not giving any weight to one. And that's kind of what you do for an asset like that. For Bitcoin, it's a bit more difficult in the short term. In the future, they'll have things like schnorrs that could be implemented, and that makes it a lot easier. But maybe to directly answer your question, the private keys are controlled by all the validators, but collectively. In most cases.
Okay, and I guess addition to that, it's like it can be reconstructed by maybe 2/3 of the validator set, I guess, right?
Yeah, so it's going to depend on each scheme, and there needs to be things like timeouts that you figure into that in case the network goes down. It's like, how do you get those assets back? There's some other things you have to do.
Okay.
But yeah, it has to be some majority at some point in time based on the signature scheme.
Okay, sure, thanks.
Anyone else? All right. Oh, we got one more in the back.
Hey, I'm Ivan from CGInnovate Network. So, what's the market cap of Kava?
So we're not a public blockchain yet. We're launching at the end of this month.
Right. So, I guess the main concern about the main issue about Maker is actually the centralized price oracle. So how do you ensure that if the proof of stake token is worth less than the Bitcoin that's deposited, how do you ensure that the validators are not actually incentivized to just steal the Bitcoin?
So that's a great question, and I think that's true of any peg, right? If the users of any asset, even like Keep's TBTC, if too much Bitcoin flows in there, or the value of the assets that they're controlling exceeds what they would lose, they're incentivized to take that. So Cosmos actually addresses that in a really nice way. And validators and that model of proof of stake addresses that in a really nice way. Because it's not just the stake of the validators that's at risk, it's actually the reputation. So our validators that we've chosen to launch with have stake across many, many networks. So if they become a bad actor on our network, even if our market cap's fairly low, and we'll try to make sure that the amount of loans and collateral that we accept is lower and so the incentives are aligned. And it scales up as we grow. But because these validators that we're working with have so much asset in terms of asset under management, and that's attached to their name and their reputation, if they're a bad actor on our blockchain, anyone who's delegated assets to them on other blockchains like Tezos or Cosmos or whatever, they will pull that and give it to another validator. So they're actually risking all of that stake by being a bad actor. So that's one way that I think the shared, it's not really a shared security model, but in that way it can be. Across all the Cosmos zones. So it increases the threshold or the amount of assets at stake more than just what the validators hold on my blockchain.
All right, thank you. So basically it's a mitigation kind of strategy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Any other questions? Right.
So I would just like to end my talk by just saying thank you to Mervin, to Michael for organizing all of this, to SGInnovate, because this has been a great first event for Cosmos and the inaugural event in Singapore. It's a great turnout and great questions. So I'm just very happy to see this forming here. I've seen it across Korea, I've seen it in SF, I've seen it all over the world, but it's really cool that it's happening for the first time here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're changing the schedule just for 10 more minutes. We're gonna have Ryan from Everett Protocol just run through his slides, just a quick presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a bit warm here, I guess. So, like, a lot of you guys might not know me, and that's a bit obvious, but to give a brief introduction, we won the Soul Hackathon. That was like back in like July. Oh yeah, thank you. And we just wanted to give you a brief introduction of what we did, and we're currently trying to develop a Cosmos zone based on this idea. And we just decided to call our product Everett. There's a good reason behind this, but we only have like 10 minutes, so I'll just skip this for this time. So the problem we identified is that if for proof of stake, there's a lot of emphasis on the security side, but there's not a lot of considerations that are done on the potential economic effects that could happen when proof of stake really gets implemented and the ecosystem drives from there. So yeah, problem number one. If you look at Cosmos right now, I just checked it, and if you stake your atoms on Cosmos, you get around like 10.56% per year right now. But DeFi is also going to be quite important in the Cosmos ecosystem as well. And if you look at a couple of previous examples, like we have Compound and Uniswap, if you put your money in Compound, if you put your Ethereum in Compound, you only get around 0.1% per year. And if you do the same thing for Uniswap, you only get around 1% per year. So eventually, these protocols, or protocols similar to these DeFi protocols, are also going to move on to Cosmos as well. But if the same thing happens, if the numbers here are quite low, then why would you put your atoms in these DeFi protocols when you could just stake them in the Cosmos hub and gain around like 10% per year? Like, this is problem number one. So we had a bit of arguments between the Cosmos community, and we settled on the conclusion that if things happen like the things we have right now, without any kind of defense about this, then eventually people are going to withdraw their money from DeFi protocols. And for example, lenders on Compound, a Cosmos version of Compound, they will have to suffer from a higher interest rate because there's not a lot of money that could be loaned out. And it also disincentivizes DeFi usage as well. So examples here are like Maker and Kava, of course. So I know Brian is here, but anyway, eventually you'll be able to use atoms as collateral to print stable coins from that. But if you do that, then you're basically losing out on 10% per year. And 10% is quite a lot, and not a lot of people, in my opinion, would actually issue stable coins, like if there's no solution to this. And this also applies for the interchain grant scheme of Cosmos as well. So for example, Ethereum and Cosmos, if we connect those two blockchains, and Ethereum is eventually going to move on to Ethereum 2.0, and the target inflation rate for Ethereum, or not inflation rate, well, it is inflation rate. So the target inflation rate for Ethereum 2.0 is currently 3.3%. So that somewhat means that if you put your Ethereum in staking, you get around like 3.3% per year. And you can only get those rewards if your Ethereum is on the Ethereum blockchain. If you move your Ethereum to the Cosmos network, you also miss out on those 3.3% as well. So there's an extra opportunity cost for interchain transfers of proof of stake based tokens. And my presentation was decided last minute, so it's not really finished right now. But to give a brief explanation about it, you have to lock your atoms in order to participate in the network and get delegation rewards from that. But if you have a lot of atoms, and if you think the price will go down, if you think the entire market is going into a bear market, then you would like it if you have the opportunity to to hedge those atoms. But currently, the only way to hedge those is to first unbond and then wait 21 days, and then you can start selling and then buy at a later date. So hedging and speculating your locked assets is very difficult right now. And this actually, from a security side, this is also bad as well, because every time the price goes down, every time it's a bear market, people will start unbonding, and that will reduce the security of the entire network. So we had this idea to create like a secondary shadow token that is backed by staked atoms. And for Cosmos, we decided to call it like B atoms, short for bonded atoms. So to give you the key highlights, first of all, obviously it's decentralized. It will be a Cosmos zone, and it's fully backed by the staked tokens, staked atoms there. And one key point here that is quite important that I wanted to mention is that we thought that you have to receive the same kind of tokens no matter which validator you delegate to. So if you delegate to validator A, you could choose to delegate to A or B, but if you get different tokens from that, people are going to get very confused from, not just regular people will be very confused. So no matter, even if you delegate to like A or B, you should receive the same tokens. And we decided to create like a one-to-one price peg by design. So for B atoms, by the protocol, B atoms and atoms would have the same price. So this is an old diagram, but we're also currently working on a ICS proposal right now. It's about enabling interchain accounts. So an example is for the Cosmos Hub, if there's an account on the Cosmos Hub that could be controlled by a Cosmos zone, then things would get very interesting. But this is just the old version of it, but you could get the idea from it. Just you deposit atoms to a special address, and using IBC, that data is transferred to a Cosmos zone, and it is verified there, and that Cosmos zone sends a delegation request to the Cosmos Hub, and that atoms that were transferred are delegated. And then B atoms, the secondary token, will be minted in the Cosmos zone. So the recovery process is quite, it's the opposite. So you decide to burn your B atoms in exchange for your initial locked atoms. That goes through IBC, and then your atoms are unbonded, and then you can retrieve your atoms. So from a user side, it will be a bit similar to like CDPs. So when you say if you have like 100 atoms, and if you want to generate B atoms from that, first you delegate those 100 atoms, And there's like a 10% collateral because Cosmos has slashing, 5% for double signing, and what was the exact number? 0.1 for 0.01 for downtime slashing. So yeah, 10% is kept as collateral, and 90 B atoms are minted, so and given out to the initial delegator. In order to recover your delegated atoms, you have to buy up those. You have to have 90 B atoms. So you have to get them from the open market or get them somehow, and then you burn them in order to recover the original atoms. Is the time okay? Or, all right. So use cases, this is quite interesting. First of all, you could gain like multiple rewards from your atoms. You could first get the staking rewards, delegation rewards, and then using the B atoms you created from delegations, you could reinvest those into other DeFi protocols and get rewards from that as well. And secondly, you could also hedge or speculate on your locked assets. And number 3 and number 4 are quite interesting. So you could leverage on delegations. So you could sell your B atoms in exchange for more atoms, and you could delegate those as well. But you cannot do this forever because of the 10% collateral. This, I might not have the time to say, but this has quite a bit of interesting effects in the governance as well. And lastly, this one might be quite interesting to validators. So we all know that a lot of validators are not getting enough revenue from operating nodes. But what if you could validate on multiple chains and gain rewards from like all of those chains without the need to gain additional capital? So for example, let's say I'm a validator. I could first use my atoms to gain rewards on the Cosmos network, and then get B atoms from that, and then sell those B atoms in exchange for Kava, and also, ooh, scary. And then in exchange for Kava, and then if you have Kava, you can use that and gain extra rewards from that. So the point is that you could stake on multiple chains without the need for additional capital. And in the case for validators, the revenue could be doubled or maybe tripled as well. Market size is quite obvious. It's increasing. Yeah. Unfinished slide. Skip. Current status. Yeah, we won the Soul Hackathon. Yay. But the price of atoms is down, so yeah. It's like we were supposed to receive like 20K, now it's like 13K. And we have a proof of concept, really basic. Both the hub and the zone is run locally, and we created like a pseudo IBC for the communication part. And we also submitted a ICS proposal. I talked about this, and it's actually the first ICS proposal that was done by a non-Tendermint dev. And yeah, you could also implement this into other proof-of-stake blockchains as well. Ethereum 2.0 is an example. Kava is also an example as well. And we're trying to research more about this. Yeah, archive slides. It's all unfinished. Yeah. Anyway, like this is it. Thank you very much for listening.
It's okay. Yeah, thank you. That's great. Brian, you're going to have to speak to him later. All right, so that's the end of it. This is the QR code for the Cosmos Singapore Meetup group. Like we mentioned earlier, there's going to be a lot more events in the coming months. So you can just scan the QR code over there, join the Meetup group. And also the Cosmos Singapore Telegram group is here. Scan the QR code, join the group. We'll share a list of events, after events that you can go to right now. So we're going to have to clean up the space in 15 minutes. So you guys can just hang around network, and we'll be moving out by the 9 p.m.